So we're working on 3.2, which is intercepts. So we've talked about how to graph an equation, how to graph from a table. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take an equation in a different form, and we're going to find 2 points from that equation and graph it. And some people think that this is a lot simpler if your equation is already in a particular form. So here are some vocabulary words that we need to know. Collinear is just when you have 2 points on a graph that form a straight line. A linear equation forms a straight line. Then you have intercepts. These are points that cross the x and y axis. So the x-intercept crosses the x-axis, the y-intercept crosses the y-axis. Slope-intercept is when an equation is written as y equals mx plus b. Standard form is when ax plus by equals c is the form that you're seeing, and that's what we're going to work with today, the standard form of an equation. So let's go to page 2. And what I want you to do on page 2 is I just want you to watch what I do first, and then you're going to write it down and then try another example. So example 1, we have 4x plus 7y equals 28. And I want to just find the x and the y-intercept and graph those points. So in order to do that, to find the x-intercept where x crosses the y-axis, I plug 0 into the y and solve for x. That gives me my x-intercept. So let's see what that looks like. I'm going to write out my equation, 4x plus 7, and then I'm going to substitute 0 where the y is. And now I'm going to solve for x. Well, 7 times 0 is 0. That cancels out. So I'm left with 14x equals 28. And then I divide by 14. X equals 2. The x-intercept is written as 2, 0. And then what I do is I plot that point on my line. 2, 0 goes right here. That crosses the x-intercept. That is my x-intercept. Now I'm going to find the y-intercept. I'm going to do the same thing, but this time I'm going to plug 0 into x so that I can get rid of that, and I'm left with solving for y. So that looks like this. 14 times 0 plus 7y equals 28. 14 times 0 cancels out, and I'm left with 7y equals 28. Divide by 7, y equals 4. And now I have a y-intercept of 0, 4. I can plot that point here. And remember, we only need 2 points to graph a line, and now I can graph this line. Okay. This is another way to graph an equation when it is in the form of, when it is in standard form. ax plus by equals c. This is standard form. If it's not in standard form and it's in slope-intercept form, we're going to graph it differently. If you have a table, you're going to graph it differently. Okay? This is just one other way to graph. So are there any questions about those steps? Xavier?
Did you get 0 so it could cancel out?
Yeah, I plugged in 0 to cancel it out. Are you saying down here or up here?
In general, can you just plug in any one you want?
No, you have to plug in 0 for the intercepts. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to write this down and maybe start on example 2, and then we'll move on. Okay, let's try example 2, and then you're going to do 3 on your own. So again, I'm going to substitute 0 for the y. So I have x plus 3 times 0 equals 6. This cancels out, and x equals 6. I didn't have to do much math for that one. So I have an ordered pair of 6, 0 for my x-intercept, and I can plot that point on the graph. Now I'm going to find my y-intercept, so I'm going to plug 0 in where the x is. And then I'm left with 3y equals 6. So my y-intercept is 2, so I plot that point and graph my line. Oh, okay, sorry. There we go. Okay, I want you to go ahead and try 3 on your own. Okay, so our y-intercept is 5, our x-intercept is 15, and we've noticed already that the graph does not go beyond 10. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna do what is logical, and we are going to extend our graph or change up our graph a little bit. So I need this to go over to 15. So instead of going by ones, I'm gonna go by twos. So I'm just gonna change this up. 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So now it goes up by 20. So now I'm going to plot my point. So 15 is going to be in between 14 and 16. And then I'll plot my y-intercept at 5. And graph my line. Okay. And you will have to manipulate your graphs quite a bit on this assignment. Okay, so let's flip it over to page 3. And we just have more of the same. So I want you to work on 4 and 5, and then we'll check them together. Okay, go ahead and do that. Okay, so here's number 4. And we're going to move on to 5. I went ahead and set it up, but I'm going to solve these just to show you one thing that usually gets missed. So this one, we end up with x equals 6. Okay, that's normal. That's like what we had before. This one though, we end up with negative y equals 18. And remember, you don't want to end up with a negative y or negative variable. So we have to divide both sides by a -1, and we get y equals negative 18. So our y-intercept is negative 18. Okay, so make sure that if you do have that negative, that you go ahead and divide by that -1. All right, so on the x-intercept, we plot a point at 6. On the y-intercept, we have to go down by 2s. So we plot it at -9, which turns to a -18. And then we graph our line. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to move down unless I have any objections. Okay, here we go. Example 6. We're going to go ahead and find our x and y axis, and you're going to get fractions. And I'm going to show you what to do with those. So you have 2x plus 3 times 0 equals 7. 2x equals 7. And then after you divide by 2, you get x equals 7/2. So what I want you to do is I want you to write your ordered pair with the 7/2. So we have 7/2, comma 0. However, when you go to graph it, turn it into a mixed number or a decimal so that you can see precisely where to graph if you need to. So I know that 2 goes into 7 3 times with 1 left over, so it's 3.5. You're basically just turning that improper fraction to a mixed number. So then when I plot this on my x-axis, I'm going over to 3.5 and plotting that point. Okay. Let's do the next one. We're going to do 2 times 0 plus 3y equals 7. Y equals 7/3. So I'm going to write my ordered pair as 0, 7/3. But I need to turn that improper fraction to a mixed number. This time it is 2 1/3. So when I plot that point, I'm going to go to 2 and up a little bit. Okay. And that's how you're going to do your fractions. All right, let's do number 7. So I'm going to find my x-intercept. Okay. Now, when we get to this point, we should know that when you have a fraction, you're going to end up multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 3/2. And x equals -9. And for the next one, we get -y equals -6, and we divide by that -1, and we get y equals 6. Okay, now you're going to go ahead and do page 4 on your own, and then we'll come back and check those. Here are the answers to examples 8 and 9. And here is the example 10, which I forgot. All right, and that concludes lesson 3.2.